as soon as they make a decision, they just proceed ahead.
It's funny. Okay, I would like to call the meeting to order for the school corporation for January 21st. And we'll start out with roll call. James, you want to start us off? Just give your name and position.
James Slaughter, student representative.
Cameron Picard, student representative.
Michaela DeSantis, student representative.
Jonathan Moore.
Tara Seti.
Scott Beecher. Mike Susie, head of school.
Holly Cassidy.
Kurt Werner.
Frank Oliveri.
Teresa Payton.
Lauren Dombrowski.
Diane Cook, business manager.
Thank you.
We also have.
We also, yep, you guys, just introduce yourself.
Announce myself as
Yes.
principal school counselor.
Deborah is principal.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Oliveri, if you would lead us in that. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Frank, do you want to read the vision and mission statement that's on our agenda?
I'm sorry, but I got screwed up with this.
Do you want me to read it for you?
If you don't
Sure,
mind.
not a problem.
I'm sorry.
The Gilbert School is committed to ensuring that all our students are prepared to be thoughtful and productive citizens in a complex global society. In pursuing this mission, we believe that all students can learn and be successful. All students are valued and deserve an education that addresses their academic, physical, and social emotional needs. All students are entitled to a safe, healthy, and respectful learning environment. All the Gilbert School community members must uphold high expectations, be accountable, and demonstrate a commitment to excellence. Celebrating the heritage of the Gilbert School strengthens community pride and inspires individual accomplishments. Next item on the agenda is public forum for the general public. The WL School Corporation welcomes comments from the public. Please state your name and address. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? No. Moving on to our student representatives report.
Alright, so in the world of sports, both the basketball teams, boys are currently 2-5. They play Seymour today. High school girls are 2-7. Both the indoor track and wrestling teams are having pretty successful seasons. Indoor track, we've had multiple people qualify for states, and we have our Bethel invite coming up on the 31st. Cheerleading, as always, is at all the basketball games and getting the student section involved. Class Act is also working with the cheerleaders and Mr. Penn to get more students involved through certain superlatives and themed games, which is working. We've had this in works since the beginning of the year, and we've had some pretty good turnouts. Also, a shout out to our new communications coordinator, Miss Madison Fritsch, who is keeping all the students informed on upcoming school events and the results from the school events and sport events. This is really helping the student body to be informed and to be able to support one another more effectively. Lets us know when the games are, what to wear, and is like a second reminder that adds on to our daily announcements. So.
Cool. Thanks, James. Cameron.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about our music department. Several students in the music department were involved in the Band/Chorus Northern Region Festival this past weekend. On February 7th, there will be auditions for All-State Band and Choir. On March 3rd, we will be holding our Music in Our Schools Month concert at 7 p.m., featuring our middle school and high school bands and choirs and our jazz ensemble. And we're starting rehearsals and stage crew meetings for our upcoming musical, The Addams Family. Shows will be taking place on March 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And believe it or not, the school year is already halfway finished, with semester 2 starting next week. And the course selection process for the next school year is starting to begin. Students will be selecting which courses they would like to take very soon with their guidance counselors and teachers. And there will be elective fairs coming up soon to show students what each elective entails. And we have some new courses that the Gilbert School will be offering next year, like AP Cybersecurity and Project Lead the Way, Principles of Engineering, which expands off of the Intro to Engineering Design. So these are courses that will hopefully, excite our student body.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen. Michaela.
Middle school students are choosing their electives for high school pretty soon, and this week we're taking exams, and middle school doesn't take exams unless they have algebra or language. And middle school winter sports is coming close to an end, which our last game for cheer is Monday the 26th, but they changed it to Tuesday the 27th. And the spring sports will be starting soon for middle school, and the spring sports are softball and boys baseball. And NJHS is creating activities for the whole school to take part in for Read Across America. There's also going to be a fundraiser that anyone can take part in, and it's at the Little Red Barn for high school cheer, so they can have warm-up uniforms.
Cool. Thanks, Michaela. You guys are all free to leave if you want.
Thank you.
It's a school night. Thank you for coming, giving your reports.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, call for agenda items. Do you have anything? No? Anyone have anything they would like to add? No? Moving on to item 4, employee recognition.
So I'll run through the packet quickly. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. So we have a group of people, Kyla, Sarah, and Shannon, as well as Darlene, who put together Christmas Angels. They collect gifts for students in need, families in need during the holidays, and then they deliver them. It's really an amazing event. People really contribute. Staff adopt either a boy or girl or both or multiple students, and they bring the gifts in, and this group actually delivers them. So very similar to the turkeys that Donnie and group do. Also, Tina Keegan and National Junior Honor Society did a clothing drive. Thank you for those folks who contributed. Appreciate that. And then for our holiday party that we did this year, I want to thank Mike Pelletier and Facilities Group. They did a great job of coming in on their weekend to help support the event. I thought it was a very, very successful event. Brought a lot of people together. And that is it for now for accommodations.
Okay.
I have correspondences coming up after.
After committees.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Any questions on that?
Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes. We have 2 to vote on. The minutes of the regular meeting of December 17th. I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion made.
Jonathan, thank you.
Second.
Teresa, any comments, revisions? All in favor? Unanimous. And then there was our organizational meeting, which happened prior to our regular meeting. I'll take a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion made.
Kurt, second, Jonathan. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Moving on to committee reports. You want to do finance?
Sure.
And the meeting, thank you.
Trying to figure out the electricity. Still trying to, we have a concierge for that now, so that's good, in case we need to dig into it. And we are currently short on our income, so we're hopefully going to get paid through the trust in the town very quickly.
Thank you. Thank you for running that meeting.
Sure.
Next one is policy, which Ellen would normally give that report as well. The minutes from our meeting are in our packet. We did meet last week, it was, and we continued through the bylaws. We're still cleaning up the bylaws, but you'll see that we have second read for the ones that we've already gone through tonight. So we're still moving through cleaning up the bylaws. That's a report for policy, building and grounds. Scott?
Yes, good evening. We did have a meeting this evening. Mike Pelletier gave us a report about the small gym. We are in the process now of installing new wall cushions and backboards. This work has all been done with a donation, a private donation, so there's no cost going to the school. We're also going to install a new rubberized flooring, and that will be done on April vacation. We did purchase a new rack for the wrestling mats because they're very heavy and safety. It's a good safety feature. Mike gave a report on the bus loop. The proposal was sent to Senator Harding's office for review. And we're still holding on that, to wait a year on that project. And Frank Oliveri brought up the possibility of maybe we should do a camel look see it through the drainage piping to be sure that it's not a faulty pipe or a joint. The boiler tubes have been repaired. 2 were leaking, they changed 7, and right now we do have a CO sensor that's going to be replaced tomorrow. And right now, as of tomorrow, the boilers will be 100%. We're also doing a review of the new emergency lighting in the building, and the fire marshal did a walkthrough, and we're in the process now of doing the punch list for that. And that's about it.
Thank you, Scott. Personnel, there is no meeting to report. Nominating, no meeting, and ad hoc negotiating, no meeting. So that takes us into correspondence.
Okay, in your packet, you'll see letters. First, we'll start letters to Tim Cronin, thanking him for his support and the trust support for the holiday reception. Also, in reference to the alumni class accounts, we have a policy 3453.1 that talks about the class accounts, and Tim is going to reach out to the individual classes to see what they want to do with their funds, and then they have 1 of 2 options. They can either donate those funds, which would be earmarked for a new van, or they can set up their own account, their class account, and then use that class account for their reunions or what have you. And there's supporting details behind that as far as our existing policy. Next is another letter from the trust, a $200 donation to be used by Scott Minnerly for the band program. We also received a $1,500 donation to cover a speaker at I believe the middle school for Positive School Climate. Deb, Terrence Talley, that's in middle school, right?
Yep. That's this week, is it? Is that Friday?
I think it's Friday of this week, right, Deb?
It's Friday.
Friday. Next is a letter for the holidays that was sent home to students and families. We sent a letter to Gene Michaud, condolences for the passing of his father. We also sent a letter to Josh and Jamie Penn for the birth of their daughter, Rose Lynn Penn. We thanked Chris Sanford also and Sandy Lynn for their support for the holiday party. I sent a letter to Aaron Stewart, who is entering the governor's race. I did not send it to any other candidates, but that's a good suggestion. I'm happy to send it to all. I sent it to this person because their name kept coming up everywhere I went, so I thought it'd be a good connection. But for consistency purposes and equity, I'll follow up with the rest of the candidates, see what happens. And that would be it for correspondence.
Great. Next item is second reading of policies. I will read through all of these. Are the 9,000 series, which are part of our bylaws.
Hold it.
Number 9,
Oh, sorry, I
resignations and
skipped over that.
appointments.
Sorry, 8 resignations and appointments.
We had 1 resignation, Jillian Kazienko. I believe she was in the cafeteria. That was 1 resignation we received this month.
Okay, now on to second read of our bylaw policies. They're all in our packet. Policy 9020, public statements. 9030, commitment to democratic principles in relation to community, staff, and students. Policy 9040, board-related responsibilities. 9110, classes of directors, terms of office. 9132, standing committees. 9133, ad hoc committees. 9140, board representatives, and 9220, resignation, removal from office, and censure. And those are all redlined for us to see what exact changes were. All of them were cleanup. We're cleaning up if there's old Heartland language or new state statutes. Marianne went through and cleaned up. So we will move those to approval at our next meeting. We have one policy for approval tonight. It's policy 7551 for the naming of facilities.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Teresa. Second from Scott. All in favor? We've seen this twice before. Thank you, it's unanimous. And then moving on to the head of school report.
So tonight we have two presentations for you. Patrick is going to be starting off with our school counseling presentation. Patrick oversees all of our school counseling. Patrick, you want to take it away?
Happy to. Thank you. I want to thank the board for giving me this opportunity. Sometimes my team is present. Tonight, they're not with me. Some of them have babies. That's the status of our department, and their families. My oldest is 13, my youngest is 8, so go to bed. I'll be home later. But thank you for the opportunity. We've done this for a few years now where we let you know the status of our department and how our interactions with the students are going and the different numbers and the data that we take. So everything you're going to see here is from semester 1. Right, so semester 1 of this current school year. Before I get into it, I do want to pitch 2 items where if you are on your way out, maybe you saw it on the way in, but if you go down the stairwell, turn left, go down the stairwell there, there's some college pennants in a nice organization, creative way. I can't take credit for that. Lisa Steves is much more creative than I am. I do rows, I'm too concrete sequential. She's got a nice design. So that will continue to fill up that wall. And that's part of our ongoing recognition for students who are accepted to colleges or different post-secondary institutions. Secondly, this coming week I'm very excited to and proud to be able to represent Gilbert as the School Counselor of the Year for Connecticut down in Washington, D.C. at the National School Council. Yes. I think my year will come to an end in this spring, though obviously elect somebody new, so I have to milk it for all I can. But I'm happy to go to D.C. on ASCA's dime and do all their participate in all their fun different activities. So I'll get some Gilbert gear. I'll be wearing it. Give me some new stuff if you want. You got a couple of days. Big giant B. Make people ask questions about what I'm wearing. Okay, so let's get into the data. So we've reviewed over the last 4 years since our team has kind of come together. I started in 2022, and then at that point we had 1 social worker, where we then quickly brought on 2 other social workers. Right, so our team, for those who may not know, we have 3 school counselors, 3 full-time social workers, and then 1 part-time who also works for CJR. So we continue to have our collaborative approach, 7 through 12, where there are no lines of distinction. We all work together. We are a team. So if a student is on a certain person's caseload, then if that person's not available, we all jump in and we help out. Right, that's part of how we like to support all of our students. So we do have that team approach. All of our school counselors and our social workers hit on all of the domains: academic, personal, social, and career. So our social workers, even though they do have sessions where they talk about mostly personal, social, they do tie it to academics and what the students want to do after high school, right? So just letting you guys know we're continuing with this global approach. Our student support team, Gaspin, continues to meet, and we are always talking about attendance and academics and how do we best support students and raise academics and improve attendance. And then that is also part where we have our SREI process embedded within that team, right? So any students who need intervention, we have that process, and the whole group, we all look at that together. Okay. Last year we added in some follow-up, and we do plan to do that again this year. It's a little bit early in that the students who are accepted to Oliver Wolcott Tech and Regional Ag-Sci have not found out yet. So once the students are notified that they have a seat, if they like it, then we plan to do the same process procedure we did last year, which is contact the parents and talk to them, and just talk about their choices and how Gilbert can continue to support them, and how being at Gilbert can help them realize their hopes and dreams. But obviously we have school choice, so there's no pressure there, but we want to continue to gather that data. That was very informative, I think, last year when we contacted those parents. Okay, so this is social worker data. In a moment, I'll show you the school counselor data, but on the left side, you have total numbers of all of these different categories. On the right side, these are the unique student instances. So, for example, you have the drop-ins, right? A student comes in and says, I don't have an appointment, I just have a need right now. So there was between 3 social workers, 435 instances in the first semester, and largely our data does hold pretty true where semester 2 ends up doubling. So you can extrapolate out that we have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 900 drop-ins for the year, and you'll see that 187 is almost half. So, you know, some of the students are coming in repeatedly and need some support. You'll see that in other metrics like parent call, direct interaction, 55 unique instances, 96 total calls, right, interactions. Weekly, those are weekly appointments. They are scheduled. I see that, social workers see that student every week. In the middle, you'll see the trend that 7th and 8th grade is largely the, most traffic we have, which kind of makes sense. They're growing probably the most out of all of our students, and I think it's maybe best that way because we're helping them grow as young as 7th and 8th grade to then be much more independent as they get older. So this probably holds true in most middle school, high schools, in general. Just ask questions if you have them. Just keep going.
That data that you're presenting, that last slide.
Yep.
You guys have a laptop set up in the office, kids come in and sign in, that's where you get this data from?
No, that's a slide or two next. So this is the social workers, they keep their own data, and then we compile it all for this type of presentation with OMD. I'll show you, I'll point it out when it's the kiosk. Yeah.
Can I ask, do you track the number of unique students that visit? Like, so do you have a percentage of who've like maybe never visited, or do you drop in?
I mean, the columns
Sure.
on the right here are the unique. So what you can pull from that is out of roughly 450 students, 292 have come through the door to see a social worker. So almost, about half the school.
Okay, oh, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And then of those 87 are unique drop-in. I got it, okay.
Yeah, exactly, right. So
Of
the right
all
side
the-
is the unique in
Yep.
the cases, and the other side is the number, the total number. right?
Okay, that's on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, perfect, yeah, good question. CJR, so we have 2.5 CJR clinicians in the building to provide therapy, of which would normally be provided outside of the school, and the students have access inside the school. So this is their data that they've collected for semester 1. So they've had 42 students. That is a 1/3 increase from last school year. You see there's 677 clinical sessions for 550 hours. And then the 29% have also availed themselves and needed further support from their clinician through CJR. That's what that final line is right there. So 30% are then getting additional services that they otherwise would get if they had an outside therapist, but they don't have to spend the time outside of school, traveling there, making the appointments. They don't have to leave school, miss,
Does CJR bill, like insurance for them?
It all goes through insurance, yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't come through us, so it's all third party. Yeah. So if it's Husky, they take that, if it's,
Yep.
regular.
And if a student didn't have insurance, would they still be seen? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would imagine so, but I'd have to ask Ms. Fletcher. I could do that.
I highly doubt that they turn kids away if they need support.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Somebody would support them
And we would certainly jump in.
I was gonna
if
say,
that
we have
were
our
the
social
case.
workers too,
100%.
right, yeah.
Exactly, so our social workers have the ability to do, school-based social work, but then also if somebody said, I really want some additional therapy outside, we could do referrals and help them with that process as well, but yeah.
And they also are able to continue services through the summer here in the building, which is kind of
With CJR?
with CJR,
Yeah.
Or the CJR therapists are here all summer.
Do the students need a referral to see the CJR people?
They do
From
have a
you
referral
or a
process.
physician?
There's a process that we do have the paperwork that CJR needs, so we can walk a student and parent through that.
Okay.
But then again, if a student were just to go and, have to catch one of them, they can certainly do it themselves. But yes, we will help people with that process. So this is the kiosk, like you had said, Mike. So what we have is a laptop set up in the school counseling office right by the door. When a student walks in, they are not only greeted by Ms. Steves, but they also can sign in. And then if their counselor is not ready, they can wait in our area. Then, or if not, they can just come into our office. So we have had, this is just for this semester, and you see the breakdown by grade levels, a total of 1,100 sign-ins on that kiosk, so 1,100 instances where students wanted to see a counselor, and that is 236 unique. So again, about half the school coming in at the midpoint of the year.
And that's also important, we covered for Mary Jo for the first month and a half, so that it's not exactly 100%.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So when Ms. Thompson was out on maternity leave for September, October, right, and then she came back right after that, Miss Kim Fiducia and I were covering, basically 7 through 12. And so I don't know what that really means as far as the data goes, but again, more to credit to the team, where we just come together and help our kids and just make it happen. What's very interesting about this, though, is that 11th grade, where they were at 5.8%, that was almost the same percentage last year for the 10th grade. So that class, they're just self-sufficient. I don't know. So maybe that's where you get all your babysitters from. Yeah. So when the student signs in on the kiosk, we ask them, why are you here? And then pick the domain that you're here, to have addressed. So they want, most of the students you're seeing want to see a counselor. And then at the bottom, overwhelmingly, they're there for social and emotional reasons. So this is the student coding this. The counselor's not, the administrative assistant's not, it's the students. So we are highly supporting our students in the social and emotional realm. We continue to raise awareness for post-secondary options. So we pride ourselves on giving those students the information that they need and the options that they have available to them. So we routinely have students go off to the world of employment. We have the military. We have trade opportunities, whether you're going off right directly to a union to get trained or there's a trade school you want to go to. And then we have college. And so part of that exposure for students is we take them on field trips. This year in the fall, we went to Naugatuck Valley Community College, both to see the college and highlight some of their, they have an automotive program. They have a nursing program. Right? They have a facility there that Northwestern's great, but every community college has a different facility. So we want to expose them, and if you just drive a little bit down Route 8, there's a whole other world here that you can access for free for the tuition, right? So, and then we take them to the college fair in the spring. We're planning to do that. And last year we had 30%, but only a third of the 11th graders attend. So we're going to work on getting that number up this year. It also helps that school counselors, Kim Fiducia and I, can network with the college reps as well, which leads to the bullet point at the bottom, where this year we had Western New England University and Westfield State do decision days here on campus. All right, so I think we had a small number of students, maybe 3 each, but they came in, the rep came in, had all the materials, the student came in, and our students represent themselves they're so great at dressing well, and they're articulate, and they present themselves well, and then they get an offer right there on the spot. So we're talking about before Thanksgiving, where most students are applying and then waiting, and maybe I hear by holiday break. Those students were able to participate and maybe get a yes even before they sat down for Thanksgiving dinner. So we want to continue to try to expand that, those opportunities for schools. We are continuing to recognize students with their May 1st decisions. That's a big deal in the world of post-high school. And Michaela Cottarelli does a great job putting together, she's Canva, I think. Again, very artistic, and she will put together a slide for every student, and we run that around the school so that all the kids can see on all the TVs, where their fellow classmates are going off to, what they're doing. Okay, so Diane Kirsch, our wonderful data miner, puts all this together, and I don't know if it was subliminal, maybe I've gotten to her, but she helped me out with some Mets colors here. So we're doing orange and blue. Go Mets. No, anybody? We have Yankee fans here.
Red Sox.
College applications already submitted middle of the year, we're at 65% applying to at least 1, 2, or 4-year college. So again, opportunities. Do you have to go? No. We just want you to have the opportunity, and the only way to do that is to submit an application. So we will continue to work on the 34% who have not, and we will talk to them about the 4-year colleges that continue to have application deadlines that haven't passed. 2-year colleges, those applications are open until June largely. And then if they don't want to go to college, well then let's talk about what you do want to do, trades, employment, let's get you some interview skills or a resume. But I think we're moving in the right direction. This comes from the state. The state compiles this data on graduates. So we're going to flip back and forth between this slide and the next one. This is last year, and the addition is at the bottom. They added 2020. Can we flip back to the last one? Okay, so 2023 was the cutoff last year. Now they've added 2024. So, okay, 2024, we've seen a little dip in enrollment of for first-year students. 2022 is when our team began to come together, right? So I started in 2022. That certainly doesn't mean that I deserve the credit. That's just my marker because I wasn't here to attest to the 64% in 2021. So we started to see great gains when our team expanded and we started to really show students what their options are. I can say that 2024, I think it's just the class. I have full confidence that 2025 is going to go up a bit, but we do see gains when we look at the persistence rate. So those students who went off, that 81% in 2023, stayed in college for their next year at a higher percentage than previous years. So that's excellent, and we want to see that continue to expand. And then as student board member Picard had indicated, we have our course selection coming up. So this is just an overview of what we're going to be working on. We do have the elective fair next week, so we bring the students into the classrooms with the teachers who are teaching these electives so that the teacher can pitch their elective and get the students excited for it, and they can see the space and really envision themselves in these classes. Then the first week of February, Kim and I will start to meet with the 11th grade students. We book, 30 to 45 minute meetings. We will invite parents. We want that post-secondary planning meeting, that, sort of the last one. You're really going to have to pick courses to be a robust conversation. Once we finish with 11th graders, then we're going to move to 10, 9, and then 8. So we'll probably be doing this into March, just to give it the time it needs. And then, we work with the 8th graders in classrooms just to make it more efficient because they just don't have as much choice as the rest of the students. They're just starting their high school career. So that's what's on the doorstep for us.
Thank you.
Very individualized approach we take from it. Any questions?
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. Enjoy your trip.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hopefully there's no snow.
We can leave.
I think you're gonna get that.
Maybe it's warm down there? No, it's not? Okay.
Sure, when you get down there, we'll. So, Mr. Brindle, I want to thank you for coming in tonight and presenting. So tonight's about students and what we're doing at the school. This is the first part where we talk about how we support students social-emotionally, as well as help them prepare for life after school. The next presentation, Deb's going to start it off, is about our school performance. Big picture here, we're going to explain to you where we're at, what we're doing now, and what we're doing to move forward. So that's kind of the big theme of the data. I will tell you that we've been working since August on looking at the data, working with leadership teams to try and impact our scores. And Deb, I'll turn it over to you. We'll kind of work, and actually, let's just right here for a second. So for those of you who, just to give you a point of reference, the best way to impact instruction is instructional core as far as student performance. So there's three components. There's the content that you're working with, then there's the students and the teacher. Those three pieces are the most impactful things you can do to improve student performance. So the staff has seen this, the admin has seen this, and we're working off of this. Deb's been working on the content all year long, and we'll continue to do that as far as our curriculum. We've taken steps with PD to work on, well, actually I want to jump in. Deb.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so basically we're in a variety of angles and a variety of teams. We're working on trying to put all these pieces together to address some of, the concerns that we have and also capitalize on some things that we're doing really well. So getting to the numbers, I'm just going to start with AP because I think it's important. I don't know if you can see those numbers. They're kind of fuzzy. Can you see them? Okay. Basically, this shows you all of the AP tests that were taken last year, and then if you look at the graph, it's all the way back to 2021. So again, just to kind of refresher, a passing AP score that will that basically passes, but not necessarily gets you college credit, but for the most part, it's a 3 or above. A lot of schools are being a little bit more strict and saying a 4 and above, but you can get anywhere from a 1 to a 5. Okay. So if you can see back to 2021. We were at like a 44% passing rate, and last year, it actually says up here 66%, it's actually 70%, because this report was taken before the makeup tests that were done, so College Board is a little lazy, and they don't redo their reports, but I know more than they do, and we actually had a 70% passing rate. So you can see up here too, there was a total last year of 58 kids who took exams. There were 108 exams taken. And the AP students with scores 3 and above, there was 38 of them. Okay, some of them were actually recognized by the College Board as AP scholars, and letters were sent home to parents, and they were recognized in that way, which is very nice. And that's also a nice thing to put on college applications and such. And the percentage of students, like it says here, it's 65.5, but it's actually 70% once the makeup ones are in. So again, I want you to kind of keep this in mind because these are the cream of the crop sort of students. The students who are taking AP courses for college credit, and 70% of them in this building are getting that credit. And it is one of the most significant indicators for college success is if you can take an AP class in high school, not only just be exposed to it, but if you pass it, you're that much more likely to get at least a B+ or above in the same kind of college class. Okay, so that's kind of something important to remember. Thanks. I did want to highlight some noteworthy scores because these are really nice, interesting reports we get for each subject that is taken in AP. So this happens to be one of our first year AP teachers. She taught English language, which predominantly is juniors. Sometimes there's a few seniors who take it. But you can see there was 18 students in our group, so that's just our class, okay, there was only one class. Our mean, so our average score was a 3.61, okay? But I think what's more powerful is if you look at comparatively, the Connecticut mean was 3.5, so we were above that. The school mean, that's us, but if you had like, multiple classes, it might be different. And then the global mean is 3.1, so we're way above that. And this is, again, for a teacher who's teaching this for the first time, so that's pretty impressive numbers. Our passing percentage was almost 95%. So, again, very, very good numbers. And it shows you here down at the bottom, the breakdown, no one got a 1, one student got a 2, which is, again, just on the cusp, they almost made it. 8 students got a 3, 6 got a 4, and 3 students got a 5. So, it's pretty impressive. Yeah.
AP classes are offered beginning in 10th grade, is that right?
In special circumstances, we do 10th grade, but it's really kind of, typically they're usually only juniors.
Okay.
But if they're, parent request, or also some of our, when they take the PSAT, they get identified through like AP potential. So if there's a student who's like off the charts, like last year there was a few, we have a student this year who's actually taking AP government as a sophomore, which has only happened like twice before.
Okay.
So it's kind of another sort of gifted kind of, angle that because we offer the class, they can take it if it fits in their schedule. So,
So it's typically 11th and 12th?
yeah, 11th and 12th.
Thank
Yep.
you.
So another subject that I just want to highlight is U.S. history. I don't know, we all had to take it because it's a graduation requirement. It was way back in the day, it still is. It's probably, other than AP physics and AP chemistry, the hardest humanities AP course. And I think these numbers are just amazing, so I just had to highlight them. This is a veteran teacher of ours, and actually we hired her with the exclusivity to teach AP, multiple AP sections. She's amazing. But these numbers are just like off the charts. So there was 13 students in that class. Our mean score was a 3.69. Again, if you look at Connecticut, it's a 3.67. And I also think it's kind of important to note that, yes, Connecticut as a whole, but there are so many AP courses offered, especially like on the Gold Coast, Fairfield, Greenwich, like this is who we're competing against, and we're actually scoring higher than them in one of the highest, highest challenging courses that AP offers. And so basically we have 92.3% of our kids in AP US pass the test, which is phenomenal. Like those numbers don't usually exist. Connecticut was only at 85%. So, again, very important to see that like our teachers, our kids are doing really well. Again, down here, if you look kind of at the breakdown, there was no 1s, there was 1 2, 5 3s, 4 4s, and 3 5s. And if you talk to the teacher, she still wasn't really thrilled about this. Because those are the kind of standards that she has, and she's amazing. But I think it's important to note that, these are real figures. Like this is from College Board, and these are our students in comparison with others who, they're killing it. So, okay. Okay, so then we're going to move on to SATs. So basically, I'm not going to spend too much time going through each because we have so many data sets, but I just kind of want you to see, essentially SAT is the 11th grade test. It's, mandated by the state. Students have to take it. It's SAT school day. They can take it, multiple times if they want to improve their score, either junior year or senior year. A lot of students do that to try to get, to a certain threshold. But essentially, they're supposed to, on the SAT, what College Board states they're supposed to get is at least a 480 in ERW is basically like, it's English, okay? And math, they're supposed to be at a 530. So that's like the ideal score that they're supposed to have. You can see what our mean is for the group, and they're kind of up and down, but we are still, our percentage at benchmark is actually, so if you can see our benchmark from last year was 489, so we were above where ideally the 11th grade marker is. And kind of this is going to be sort of the tail of the tape here with math. We definitely are still struggling. We're not the only ones for sure. You know, math is tough across the state, across the nation. You know, the latest nation's report card shows that the U.S. is just trailing in math instruction, and you know, scores are just plummeting, especially after COVID. So it's not something that, you know, we're okay with. We're going to be doing all kinds of different things. We're in the process of it, which I'll get more into. But as you can see, we're definitely not meeting the mark here with math. So only 18% of them are at benchmark. Okay. Another thing that's important to note is that the PSAT is not mandatory for students in Connecticut. Okay, it's not. But it's one thing that we think is really important for our students to get the exposure to the test every single year. It's also a really nice benchmark for us to, you know, to determine instruction and to, once we mine the data, to see if there's any standards that we are not mastering, that we need to adapt the curriculum in order to, you know, address. And so this is basically the last kind of practice SAT that they take. So this is taken in October, the PSAT. A lot of other schools make students pay for the test. We do not, okay, and we actually make it mandatory. So we actually have a really nice data set from kids. They start to take it in 8th grade, so they take the PSAT 8, 9, 10, 11, and then they take the SAT, okay? And you'll kind of see, I follow some cohorts here just so you can sort of see what it looks like for a kid and, you know, the different classes and how they progress. So this was PSAT 10. Again, this is all the way back to 2019. You can see, for the most part, in English, we're at benchmark or above. In math, we continue to struggle. You know, there are some gains here and there, but again, it's difficult. And as they get older and closer to the SAT, the more complex the math gets. So here's the PSAT 9 from this year. And again, you can see the same kind of pattern. You know, again, we took like quite a bit of an increase last year, like with math, from 17 to 40%, and then kind of back to 32. And it's also important to note, which I do have in here later on too, that we are in year 3 of a new math program, and typically they say it takes 5 to 7 years to really see, you know, the benefits of that. So we're still kind of in the middle of the whole process, but we're definitely seeing that it's worth sticking with, and you know, there's definitely going to be work to be done, and we're in the process of doing it, but you know, here's the numbers. Here's the PSAT 8. Okay, so it's important to look at, because everybody's like, well, what's the cohort, right? So basically the cohort is the same group of students who have taken this test year after year after year, okay? So if you look at, say, the class of 2026, so this shows on here, when they took the PSAT 10, their English scores were 436. When they took the PSAT 11, a year later, the same group of kids, so even if a kid moved, if a kid came in or they were absent, they were sick, they were whatever, it's only the same group of kids that took both tests. So this is a true cohort to cohort measure, okay? Their scores went up a mean of 40 points. Now, if you look at College Board and all the research, they're supposed to statistically rise anywhere from 30 to 45 points a year. Okay, so we're right in where we're supposed to be. Okay, they're going up as much as they are supposed to. So it's not like students are flatlining, it's not like they're going down. They're definitely rising, but again, you know, we still have work to do, right? So class of 2027, you can see that, and their numbers at the bottom there. Again, they're not making as large of gains in math, and that's why we're doing so much work and focusing and, you know, working with different groups and, you know, trying to get more intervention for math, which I'm going to go into more details. But again, when you look at this, you see that they're definitely going up, but it's just that because they kind of start out also at a disadvantage with math, it's difficult to get where they need to be in the amount of time that they have. But they're definitely making decent progress. I think this is also kind of important to show. So this breaks it down with our scores, the state, U.S., and global. So you can see like we're pretty much neck and neck here. You know, there's not like a gigantic disparity, but the you know, by the time they get to 11th grade, a lot of the math, you know, the advanced concepts and whatnot, it really does kind of hold them back a little bit, and lose ground a little. So here's like it broken down by subject. So here's English, and then math is X. You can see math, they definitely have a bit of a dip. Okay. So here's SBAC. This is basically the test that the 7th and 8th graders take. They take it in English and math, okay? So as far as these numbers go, basically you can see on here the top figure is, this is English for 24-25, so this was last year's test. The one down at the bottom, that was for the year prior, okay? So the two last columns are the ones that are either at goal or advanced, okay? So we're about like 42% in grade 7 and about 40% in grade 8. So again, there's room for improvement there. And then the year prior, it was around 40%, and I think it's about like 44%. So again, not where we want to ultimately be, but there's still like almost half of the students who are meeting goal as of, last year. Okay. Math is a little bit different. As you can see, the grade 7 is at the top. So they're at, they had 22% that met goal, and then 15% that were above. And you can see the number underneath, it's 19 and 13, that's the number of actual students. And grade 8 is right below it. And it's important to note too that grade 8 is where they really get into heavy algebraic concepts. It's very difficult for a lot of students once they make the jump to algebra. A lot of students do really well in algebra, and then when they get to geometry, it's like, oh my god, what is this stuff, But for the majority of the test on SBAC and the majority of the SAT, it's algebra based. So if you struggle in algebra, it's going to come out in these numbers, And so that's why we're trying to do a variety of different things to try to, combat this. But again, we're not the only school dealing with this. There's people who make a lot of money coming up with math programs and, touring the country and talking about how to raise math scores, because it's really like a nationwide epidemic. Okay. Science. So science, this is not a test that has been done all that long. I think it's like less than 10 years, but this is the next generation science standards. It's not something that's necessarily that goes into your accountability, but it is important because all 8th graders take it and the 11th graders take it as well. And again, there's a lot of different things that are on this test that some students, if they're not going to a certain track where they don't want to be an engineer, they may not ever see some of the physics type things that are on there. So we've done a lot of curriculum work to try to make sure that they get the most exposure they can, regardless of whatever, college and career kind of program that they have. And we're still making adjustments this year. We're offering new science courses next year in order to expose them to physics, chemistry, and biology in literally every single class that they take. So, there's so much that goes into these tests, and there's a lot of, decoding that you have to do on the instructional side of things in order to try to meet all the needs and also get these kids the credits that they need to graduate. So what are we doing now to try to address this? So we're continuing literacy and numeracy initiatives 7 through 12 in all departments. So Mike and I and the leadership team started out this summer in August, combing through hours and hours of data, and we met and came up with basically our school improvement plan. We wrote goals. Goals weren't just handed to people. There's a ton of buy-in from the leadership team. Patrick was a big part of it too. He loved it. Spending 2 days with us in the summer. We're increasing writing and reading across the disciplines. We have specific PLC meetings where every single month, for 1 hour, teachers get together and they talk about how they're addressing the school goals. And if there's something that's really successful, they'll come and present it to each other at a faculty meeting. We've gotten some really cool information for things that work, in an art class that, she was forced to kind of think outside the box and do some different things. And so essentially this is something that is an expectation across the board. We have benchmarks and PLC work in line with these goals. We're also bringing back SAT prep courses next year to the high school. The reason we didn't do them this year was because we had mandated it for 9th, 10th, and 11th for 3 years in a row, so they were all gone, they have all gone through the cycle. And, you know, instructor and department chair feedback was kind of that 9th grade was a little too early to spend so much time on SAT prep, so we really wanted to try to push it to the older kids, so 10th and 11th grade, most likely, and maybe freshmen, some freshmen are going to be seeing those courses again. As far as math goes, we worked with the union to create opportunities for interventions for middle school math during the day. Again, we have to get creative, and basically that's just one example of, you know, sitting with the union and saying, okay, we need to do this, and they understand that it's important, you know, the teaching staff does, the leadership team, everybody, and we're all, you know, pointing in the same direction. We've been partnering with Ed Advance to do a curriculum review, class observation, so we had a math expert come in from Ed Advance last Friday, and she sat in a bunch of different classes, met with the department head, and then we sat and basically went through data and whatnot and tried to develop a plan with her assistance on what else we could be doing in addition to what we already got. We're also going through SBAC specific prep and analysis work, again, to some degree. As much as, you know, philosophically we may not all love it, you have to teach to the test to a certain degree. You know, the kids need to be exposed to the type of questions that they're going to see, because you don't want the first time that they see these questions to be the actual test, you know. We also advertised and have now a math tutor after school that's targeting skill development. Kids are assigned from their teachers if they need a little extra assistance, and we've also had some parents request after school math help, so we have a tutor who's here 5 days a week after school, and, you know, she's working with kids in that capacity. We're also doing curriculum meetings with Agile Math. So the department chair, Lauren Bandon for math, and I have met with Agile Math. I think it's like once a month, if not more. And these are the reps that basically go and tour the country, and people that are the founders of the program, and they sit and review our data with us and give us, you know, instructional tidbits on how to meet certain, you know, standards, what to avoid, what to focus on. So again, these are all conversations that are going on in an attempt to try to get our scores to improve. We also thought that it was important to expand Agile Math into Algebra 2. So up until this year, we only had the program because you have to pay per student per, you know, course, and we were only offering it in 7th grade, 8th grade, and Algebra 1. So next year we're expanding it into Algebra 2 because we do see the value in the program and the way that it's allowing our teachers to see instant data on any assessment that these students take. And it gives them extra practice, and there's also like some cool graphics and like different activities that the kids can do on Desmos. So they really enjoy the program, so we wanted to expand that to Algebra 2 as well. We're also meeting with the area math department chairs, so Lauren and I have been reaching out to other schools, specifically ones who may have had like recent success with SBAC, trying to see what they do, how they do it, and again, like everybody knows that in Connecticut, that's our, you know, test for 7th and 8th grade, so all trying to like work together as a team, and people are very happy to share, you know, things that have worked for them, as we've shared with other departments across Connecticut with things that have worked really well for us. And then one big thing is next year we decided through a variety of different measures, going all the way back to, you know, parent surveys and student surveys and whatnot, for scheduling the next year. We're going to have math every day. We're getting rid of the block schedule, and we're going with a more sort of traditional, you know, 40-minute block, 40-minute class, 8 periods, and it's going to allow students to see their math teachers, their English teachers, their social studies and science teachers every single day. Right now, for instance, I had a teacher tell me today that they have a class that they did not see since last Thursday, and they won't be seeing them now until next week. That's a problem, you know, and again, we've tried this, we've tried that. This is something we haven't tried, and we really think that this is going to make a big difference. And all the numbers that you saw on there, the last data set that we had prior to block scheduling, I think, was like 2019. And you saw, like, our numbers are kind of flat. So again, this is a drastic change, but all the literature you read says the more that they're exposed and the more frequently they're exposed to concepts, the better off they will be, and we hope that that's definitely the case with this change. And as far as English goes, you know, again, we're not like super satisfied with those scores either. We'd love to have, you know, more of a percentage up in the, you know, 80th, 90th percentile. So we're continuing to analyze data and examine programming for next year. Thanks to the board a couple years ago, we were able to get the Read 180 program, which all the students in 7th and 8th grade are doing now, and also some targeted students through SRBI in high school. We're also looking at doing the Common Lit program, which does a lot of, you know, just reading comprehension, vocabulary kind of stuff. We're doing curriculum revision from April break through the summer, specifically focusing on like 8th grade and 9th grade. We're reinstating Khan Academy practice. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure of seeing Khan Academy in action, it's just a lot of fun. It's SAT questions like instantly, and it's actually nice because it lines right up with your scores and what you need the most help with. And so because we have our kids take the PSAT every year, it actually gives them personalized practice, which is something that even a teacher, it would take them hours and hours to come up with questions, and this just does it, you know, with the algorithm. So they're doing that through their English and math classes. Every week they have to do it. Some of those of you who have kids here are probably just loving it because kids complain, but they also are appreciative of the fact that they get exposed to all these questions, and it does help. They're also continuing to do vocab units that are aligned with the SATs, PSATs. The program we buy basically is just that. They're the most common words seen on the SAT, and that's what we, you know, have to build to as far as the junior year. So every single year from 7th grade on, that's what they work on. And as far as SBAC, teachers on the middle school teams are working closely with admin and department chairs to break down the test. For instance, our 7th and 8th grade team leaders yesterday spent 2 hours taking an actual SBAC themselves because they did not have that pleasure when they were in school. And so they wanted to actually sit and, you know, that's actually one of the first things they say to do if you're teaching any new course. When I went to AP Lit training through College Board, the first thing they made you do when you walk through the door is you take the test yourself. They want you to see what it's like. And I talked to them today, and they said it was extremely stressful, but that it was very informative. So they already took down notes, and they, you know, made different purchasing lists, and Diana's helped us out with trying to get some more like SBAC prep materials and whatever. So, I mean, again, it's something that we feel is important. They took the time to do it, and I think, again, it's something that they haven't done in a long time, but it's necessary. And same thing with English. They're going to have their students every single day next year with the new schedule. So I think it's also kind of important though to talk about what's not in those scores. It's very easy to get wrapped up in just those numbers and be like, oh, well, you know, that's just how it is. You know, there's so many things that are not on those charts, right? And I just think it's important to talk about it because we try to teach the whole student, you know, and if you're a student who's not great in English or math, then where are you know, in any of that data? You're not in there, okay? So I think it's important to note that 79% of our seniors last year applied for higher ed versus 45% just 4 years ago. That's a major shift in a short amount of time. And it's a team effort, you know, from administration all the way down, you know, and through the rigorous material that we're going through, you see that the students are doing well in AP. The students also feel connected here. Okay, so we just recently gave a school climate survey that is now mandated by the state. Every year you have to give it, so we gave it to the entire student body, as well as, you know, parents and students. And I just kind of pulled some of the data from there that I think is important for you to know because, again, like a lot of what you're doing is for students. So 73% of students reported teachers treat me with respect. That's important. 67% reported there's one trusted adult I can go to with a problem. And we really do value and put relationships with students at the forefront. One of the first things we do all year is we put students' pictures up in the hallway and we have teachers sign off and see who has a relationship, and then we spend the first quarter trying to reach out to those students and make connections with the kids that don't have as many signatures, right? Because we want to make sure that, I mean, most of the problems or any sort of like, you know, social issue or, you know, danger, things that could lead to danger and violence, like they all are rooted in kids not feeling connected. So we want to make sure that we value those connections and that we support them. 66% of them feel that teachers set high standards for learning. 65% of students feel safe at school. 71% of students feel teachers help all students learn. So again, those are really good numbers. I think it's also important to you know, throw out the distinction that we have 7th graders filling this out that sometimes are a little click happy. You know, they may not even be reading the whole question, but you know, for the most part, I mean, those are numbers that just about anybody can be happy with. More students are also participating in athletics, so one of our school goals is engagement this year. Only, you know, 30 more in winter sports alone, so for a school as small as we are, 30 more kids in winter sports, like that's huge, you know? We also have 2 new clubs. I think Cam or James actually touched on this. And they were created exclusively from student interest. So the School Climate Club is something that Mr. Sorbonne is working on. He has a small group of students who said, hey, we really want to work on, you know, doing some things like that aren't Spirit Week, but like that can really bring kids together. So they've been working on stuff. They got some bracelets. They're going to do some activities. And Class Act is something that Mr. Penn and I actually got approached by a student who wanted to bring it here, and we've been working on that since the beginning of the year. We have some different sportsmanship things that they're recognizing. They were also a big part of the ribbon cutting. If you were there, our students were, you know, taking pictures. They had their shirts on. They were, you know, leading the tours and stuff like that. So they're going to be recognizing at every game once we get the write-up perfected. And I'm kind of a stickler about that, so it's sort of me holding that up. But once we get the write-up perfected, they're going to talk about, at each game, they're going to say, you know, Gilbert recognizes sportsmanship in the following ways, and we're going to hand out bracelets to kids that the team felt were good sports during like that athletic contest. So basically, as you can see, this really has nothing to do with what those scores are, because those scores on those charts are one day, one test, and that's really important. You know, it's one day, one test. That's it. And there is just so much placed on those charts that I feel like there is also a story that's not in there. And I think that's important to tell too. And, you know, people are working really hard here, and they're doing a lot of creative things. And, you know, we're always asked to do, you know, more with less, and I feel like we're doing it. And, you know, we're not stagnant. We're not just sitting here on our hands saying, oh, okay, everything's great. You know, it's not. Like, we recognize that the students need to do better on some of these tests. But, again, you know, there's only so much we can do in so much time. I think that might be it. Is it? Okay. I found this online, and I think it's also pretty important. So, reading and math matter. They're important tools. But if they're tools, not education itself. The tools matter because they make deeper learning possible, not because they are the totality of learning. Research is clear. Academic skills don't operate on their own. Students don't succeed in life just because they can read and calculate. They succeed because they can regulate, reason, persist, and work with others. Education is learning how to stay regulated when something feels unfair. And I think it also dovetails nicely with the programming that, you know, the counseling department is doing, because you're seeing that students are definitely making progress. They're applying to schools at a higher rate, you know, they're having success in the military, in the job market, and they're coming back and sharing their experiences with us. We've had alumni talk to our student body over and over again, and a lot of times they're the ones that they listen to the most because they were in their shoes. So, what we're really looking for is well-rounded, collaborative, communicative, creative kids who leave us and head into the world to help make it a better place. And these are some of the many things that they do when they're here. And of course, at the top, that's the culminating event that we're trying to get them all to, which is that stage, you know, with the Gilbert banner and with the diploma in their hand. So, just to kind of conclude and wrap everything up, scores are in need of improvement. We get that. We're also continuing to address them short and long term. So we have a plan for this year, for this semester, for next semester, for next year and beyond. Teachers and leadership are focused on the school goals. The staff is working diligently. Students are connected, engaged, and planning their futures after Gilbert more than ever. And there's a lot to celebrate and embrace, but there's also a lot of work to be done. But, you know, it's a partnership and it's also a balancing act, right? And we just hope that everybody understands that we're doing all that we can, and that's, you know, we're grateful for your support and what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I just want to say something. I hate when we compare ourselves to, you know, the state average and whatever, or even surrounding towns, because I know the product is different. I know our demographic is different. The one thing we've done at the Winchester board is we've looked at our data, we've looked at cohorts from when they go through our system and come up here, because our kids don't stop becoming our kids once they come up here, right? What we've noticed over the last 4 or 5 years is the test scores seem to go down. So we're not comparing other towns, we're comparing the same kids. And as they come up here, 7th and 8th grade, their scores tend to go down on SBAC. So I would really would like to figure that out.
That's why we're working so hard on SBAC. I will say, SBAC is a majorly flawed test. Connecticut put a ton of money into it, and they're connected to it. In the beginning, there was 45 states who locked in for it was the park, it was the map, it was the SBAC, right? And after years had gone by and they realized it was a culturally biased test, it was a technologically biased test, because it was on a computer back when everybody else was taking things on paper. I think they were down to like 21 schools or states now that use it, and it might even be less now. So we're one of the few that kind of hung in there. But we also put a lot of value in the PSAT scores, because if you look at, and I've done this in presentations before, I've compared 8th grade SBAC scores from May to 8th grade PSAT scores, which are taken in October, or 9th grade PSATs, which are taken in October, and the scores, you wouldn't even think it was the same group of kids. It's a very different test. And that's another reason why there's not a lot of workshops even to go and that focus on just SBAC prep, because we're one of the only states that does it. So I can send teachers to PSAT, SAT, AP workshops across the country, trying to find SBAC workshops. You know, we've done it. It's very challenging. That's why we're reaching out to, at Advance, we're reaching out to other schools, other department heads, like things that we haven't done before, because we're trying to pull out all the stops, because it is a different kind of test. Yes, it's English and it's math, but it's done in a very different way. There's I think 5 or 6 options for answer choices versus the PSAT and SAT, which have sliced them down to, I think it's 4 now. And they did that because they realized that it was not giving them the information that they wanted. Kids were getting so fatigued on the test, that's why they shortened it. So they're kind of stuck in the same test that they've been giving, and other, testing companies are changing the test in order to better meet the needs of kids. And I would just also like to say, we were very concerned also about going all digital with tests, and it's against every psychological, developmentally appropriate milestone that you have. We're not supposed to be doing it, but they are, because it's cheaper. You can roll out AP tests, you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. I could go on and on about this, but anyway.
Just to summarize it though.
Yeah.
Yes, we understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at that. We're looking at the numbers, we're looking at the root causes. We see the numbers. There's no surprise there. What we want everyone to understand here is that we're taking that seriously. We are doing everything in our power currently and changing things dramatically next year to have a positive impact on that. No one is disputing that our scores are where we want them to be. And that's what we're spending time doing.
I have no. So, 8th grade. if I understood, PSAT 8 and GSS and SBAC.
Yeah.
Feels like a lot.
It is.
I guess my overarching question is I completely understand, I've, been here for a long time, the data that you're getting from the testing, but it feels like a lot of testing for like 8th grade all the way through, like mandating PSAT 8, 9, and 10, and SAT 11. I know you're getting data points, which are helpful in forming instruction, but is it balanced appropriately? I guess is my question. It feels like a lot of mandatory testing. Is it giving you what you need?
Do you want me to speak as a principal, as a mom, as a,
I think I have a general idea what you probably think. It always brings to me like that age-old statement, like, why are you beating a dead horse? If the horse is dead, you gotta get off and find your horse. Like, are we so caught up in the data points that the instruction is so formed around this mass number of standardized tests? Are we gaining more than we're losing by mandating all of this testing? Because I'm a big fan of, like, if it's not working,
Right.
if you've tried it for 10 years and we're like, and you're not getting what you want, do you want to continue mandating all of this testing, or is a refocus on what you're trying to do instructionally going to give you a better result? And I know it needs a cohort and it needs a lot of time to really get there, but you've had a lot of time on the PSAT data. Is it giving you what you want?
well, here's the thing with the PSAT, because you're absolutely right. It is a lot of testing. It's way too much, and a lot of people are trying to, the NEA, I know, the CEA, they've all done it. They've all talked about it, and they've all said that it's too much testing. In the 70s, the U.S. was #1 in the world with in education, and Finland came over to study us. And now we all hear the stories about Finland, and we're testing more, and we're doing less developmentally appropriate things, like students are starting to read in kindergarten. And that's it's
crazy.
It's too much, and we're abandoning recess and different grade levels and stuff. And even a couple years ago, I remember talking with folks at K to 6, like they didn't have time to do social studies because we have to do math and English. That's what we're tested on. That's what the state cares about. That's what the nation cares about.
Like, we're all doubling down on stuff that we know isn't working.
Exactly. So we're not. Here's the thing with PSAT. It's more naturally like kind of absorbed into the curriculum. So it's not like we're like, today's a PSAT practice day.
Okay.
That's not what we're doing. Like, we're trying to target things that are actually, we're using like question stems and different types of activities that transfer those skills. But what I was saying too about SBAC is it's more difficult to transfer those into like a normal novel unit, let's say, because of the way that the questions are worded. Like, even the terminology they're using is very different than they're using on the College Board. And if we want to talk about like looking at it, whole scale as a school, the SAT, they have to all take it in 11th grade. So what we didn't want also was the first time for them to see it to be even in 9th grade or 10th grade, because that's like back when I was in high school, we didn't take it until we were in 10th grade. And these kids definitely need the exposure, So it is a balance, and that's what we're trying to do, because kids get fatigued too. They don't want to sit and take test after test after test. Nobody does. But we also chunk it out and do like with AP, for instance. They don't do full sets of 50-minute, AP multiple choice questions. Same thing with SBAC and PSAT. They may do a question set of 10, and it's 10 minutes out of the period instead of 50. But so you're right. It's a lot, but it's kind of like you have to strike that balance. And I just, again, when so much focus is put on it, you kind of have to prioritize it to some degree. But the skills that they're measuring aren't skills that they shouldn't have. It's reading, writing, comprehension.
Right.
But yeah, it's difficult because it's one test, and students are individuals, and we're supposed to be creating individualized education plans for all these students, and yet we're giving them all the same test.
Tara, I think you were next.
Are you also? I just had a couple quick questions, just out of curiosity. What is PLC?
Professional learning community.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I had,
Sorry, a lot of acronyms.
no, that's the way it goes. No, thank you. And I didn't figure it was like super important to me, but I just was like, I didn't know what so you had also mentioned that like working with the union to create some opportunities for interventions for middle school students. Would that include just kind of like one-on-one, like help, or do you have a couple of examples?
We don't have the ability to do one-on-one. I would
Oh
love
yeah,
to.
no, just no idea.
No, like small group kind of instruction where like, teachers kind of split, go to different rooms, do different things with different groups, depending on the data that they get from like Agile. So that was something that we worked with the teachers, with the team, and also with the union on being able to get that flexibility, and have teachers understand why we were doing it,
Okay.
And
Does that like
they all
happen?
want it.
Oh, sorry. Does that happen during like some like free time or
During their math class, or
Okay.
it could also be like sometimes maybe during advisory,
Right,
or if the
advisory.
kids have like, if they have band or choir, and then on the opposite day, they don't have it, so that we could kind of pull them there.
Okay.
So we're really trying to like get them whenever we can, without disrupting, other academics.
So Deb, we don't have instructional coaches, correct, here?
No,
So we're kind of
It's,
piecing it together because we don't have
department
that
chairs and
additional staff.
creativity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then I just had one other quick question. I don't know a heck of a lot about this, so like that's why I'm asking you. But is there a different method of teaching? So if you go from block, I'm sure there's pros and cons to both. Is there like a different method of teaching if the teacher has to go from doing like say an 80 or 90-minute class to now is and I guess you can obviously spread that through the week, but you have to sort of shift how you
Yes,
teach, I
definitely.
imagine, right?
A lot of it is in planning.
Okay.
And so we've talked about this with Mike and, again, the union and the department leadership, and actually myself and the two other APs are going to be doing a PD session on like just backwards design and how to plan and how to now, some of just the conversation about, okay, you're going to see kids 5 times a week now. It's not going to be that, like I said, the real scenario where I had a teacher today say, I haven't seen my kids since last Thursday. You don't have to think that much ahead. Even just keeping track of who missed this test because they were absent, who was sick that day, what did they miss, It's a lot less bookkeeping and, a lot less transitions that they have to worry about doing 3 or 4 different activities during one period because they don't have time for it. So they're basically going to do like an intro, a bell ringer, they're going to get to the lesson, there's time on task, and then the closure. And basically, they may have enough time to start their homework or have some individualized instruction. But basically, we find too that we use so many different data points to look into this new schedule. One of them was we found on half days, which were shorter periods, on days that we had a late opening and days that we had an early release, like because of weather or whatever. We had less students wandering, less students who were AWOL and tardy to class, less students who were in the nurse, less students who went to the library, so there were so many different things. And again, 80-minute class, if you are late 20 minutes to that class, you can still sit there for 60 minutes, but if you're late 20 minutes to a 40-minute class, you just missed a lot of instruction. And so it's gonna have a much bigger impact. And again, some of us were here when we did the traditional 46-minute classes, and we didn't have as many discipline issues as we do now. And a lot of it is because, again, psychologically, 20 minutes is like the height for students to keep their attention because they have this high, this really, what is it? Instant gratification.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
and that's like,
The
it's like
Google
20-minute
generation.
attention
Yes.
span.
Well, I almost wonder if
Yeah.
it's gotten worse now with like,
Oh, yeah.
I wonder when the last.
And so it's like, if you're sitting there for, it's a long period.
Yeah.
It's a long period for teachers. It's a lot of transitions, a lot of planning.
We just had a survey, I forget which one it was. If it was
This
the student.
school climate,
This student said.
students said, classes
too
need to be
long."
shorter. Class is too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just sat in like a 2-hour meeting before I
Yeah.
came to this, and I was like, I'm out after
yeah.
like
Right.
an hour. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder, and I also, to your point about, again, I don't want to I don't know which is better, but I do think often about like the student, if they miss a day, now they've missed it. Now you've got the weekend,
Right.
and there's like a little bit of learning loss, I
Mhm.
imagine, and and if they're
Right.
so. Okay, no, it's interesting. Thank you for answering my
Yeah,
questions.
Right.
Sorry, just to add to that.
Yeah.
Flip that question around. Teaching the block is much different. So you have an 80-minute time with students
Right.
to try and entertain them. If you're not used to that teaching method
Right.
and how to really break it up, it's very challenging for the students and for the teacher.
It's kind of
So
why
this-
I asked too.
Yeah, so this transition back is good for the students
Mhm.
and it's good for the
Or
teachers.
more teachers maybe like kind of like not predisposed, but they're used to that sort of teaching method.
More manageable.
Yeah.
Really, that's what it comes down to.
So you're going to an 8-period day?
Yes.
So every class, every day?
Yep.
And is it like
For 40 minutes.
rotate?
It does not rotate, and here's why. So again, we tossed around a whole bunch of different schedules. We had a scheduling committee. We've talked about it ad nauseum with, we've even had discussions on, Holly remembers, on the board about this a couple years ago. And again, we have to think about, we have a middle school and a high school here. They are not separate entities. And a lot of high schools can run a decent block schedule with, some minimal disruption. We can't do that with middle school. We couldn't even have a middle school study hall because the first year we had it was 80 minutes, and it was murderous. I mean, teachers, kids, they were like, parents were, very upset, and I don't blame them. It was very difficult to get anything done, like proactively. But this allows more opportunity for us to have like a 40-minute study hall for, middle school students and work on study skills and stuff like that. And it also allows and opens up more opportunity for the community college and for internships and work studies that we virtually had to abandon because of our schedule.
Monday through Friday, 8 periods.
Monday through Friday.
Math's the same
1
time
through
every
8.
day.
Same time
Monday's
every day.
Monday, Tuesday's Tuesday,
Yep.
yeah.
And Tuesday's the same as Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Every
every
day is
single
the
day
same.
here is the same.
It's like Groundhog Day.
Sounds great.
No AJ, no BJ, thank God.
Simplified.
Okay.
It's Friday. Okay.
Just to add,
Yes,
we're
sorry.
going to send out the presentations, by the way, both of these.
Thank
so
you.
Perfect.
people have that information.
Thanks.
Just wanted, you touched on it before for both about the parents
Mhm.
being involved. I'm only here 3 months being on the board, and when I'm finding out in Winchester schools, I don't see that parents being involved. So when the kids come here in 7th and 8th grade, do you find that the parents are more interested, or that's an issue?
7th and 8th grade, they're always more engaged, I think, because the kids are younger, and then we do see it kind of even out and sort of fall off a little bit. I think that's pretty typical, but we would love to have more parental engagement. For instance, we did a parent survey, and I think 67 parents completed it.
But I think you guys have been doing more events like the FAFSA night to get families in
Yes.
here
And we did,
things like
we
that.
totally revamped our open house.
But
We had
I mean, it's still a
Open
problem
house.
to
It's
get
still,
them in.
yeah, we're
That's what I'm
trying,
saying.
It helps when you have food and.
Yes,
raffle
food is
prizes.
big.
Food and
was
raffle
packed.
prizes.
But Hinsdale had a
Everything.
concert tonight at Pearson, and
Right.
it was
It's
like,
packed.
it's jammed. So I
So,
think the
same as
engagement,
last night.
yeah,
Yeah.
engagement at the lower grades is.
But I will say that what Deb said is accurate as far as it's traditional. Elementary parents are uber involved.
They're
You
the
have
little
PTOs,
babies, they want to be,
PTAs, and all that stuff. You get to middle school, first of all, middle school students don't want anything to do with their parents usually, and they're just a different animal. You get to high school, parents go towards their kids' interests. I'm a soccer parent, I'm a band parent, I'm a, name whatever your kid's involved in, if you are even that connected to it. So the older your child gets, the parent engagement is harder to pull in because of different interests.
Well, and they start driving, so you're not
Yeah.
having to drive them to
Shuttling
school,
them
and you might as well stay here, and,
Right.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we have seen like definitely a spike. I mean, we would love to have even more, parental involvement. But I think it is tough too. A lot of parents, there's transportation issues. A lot of our folks don't have vehicles that are reliable. Like they'll, send students home even with rides and stuff. With a friend or an aunt or whatever. So that is kind of tough, especially in the winter months sometimes. But we try to do everything we can to get them here. We've invited them to more things than ever.
Of course, yeah, I mean, doors always open, and we try to get, the Deb goes the other way, every Friday, she emails the staff and says, reminder, call 5 parents and say 5 good things, so we're trying to do that too. Because, I call, and the first thing I have to say is, it's not an emergency.
It's not a problem.
Yeah.
Nobody's in trouble, it's not an emergency.
Right.
Oh, do you have a moment? Okay, yes, now we'll talk.
Okay, good. That's good.
And we send out postcards over the summer to, all the classes, just welcoming them in.
Well, and to, just again, for your knowledge, the home visits we do.
Yeah, that's
Our
what I mean,
social
that's what I was
work group.
picking up on your, them.
Yeah, school counselors,
That sounds
social
like a
workers, if
good
there's an
idea.
attendance issue or a need to go to the house, we go out to the house, knock on the door, if they're not there, we leave a little card that says, hey, we're thinking of you, we're here. So a lot of good connections.
That sounded good,
And we invite them in for the junior meetings, the planning meetings, and most parents do, even if they can't come here physically, they join via Zoom, which I think has helped a
sure.
lot,
Yeah,
you know.
Google Meet.
Well, even for PPTs and different meetings and stuff, if they can't make it here, or if they're at work, they'll take a break, go, you know, to their car, and they'll jump on, you know, that way, so I think that's been helpful, so.
This is not meant to be a criticism, it's more of just like, you had said something and, I assume it's like a bit out of your control, but I'm also, you know, you had said we're in year 3 of a math program that takes 5 to 7 years to see the benefit, which also gave me like, yikes feelings, you know, like what a,
It's a
what
whole
the
cohort of
loss
kids
of
that
like, hey,
are
my kids in
gonna-
there, or like your
Oh,
kids in there, or
yeah,
somebody,
it's
you
not
know?
that,
No,
the
but-
way that they also describe it too is that any program, it takes 3 to 5 years to
Right.
see any sort of real impact. You know, we've seen impact, like our scores did spike last year, they went up a little bit higher, but then, you know, they kind of stayed flat. But we were talking to them about that, because I mean, you know, this is a program that we research many different programs. And they said, well, we also have seen through schools we worked with, you know, that are much like yours. You know, we went and visited a school in Boston that had a very similar socioeconomic, you know, grouping and whatnot, and it was a middle school, and they had scores very similar to ours, and after, I think they were on like year 4 or 5, we saw just instruction and just the data, it was like astounding. We're like, oh, we hope we can, you know, we can get there. So we're working towards that, but a lot of it is just, you have to kind of run through the program. The kids have to get familiarized with it, because it is a different way of doing math than what we all did. You know, we used to have the answers in the back of the book to the odds or the evens or whichever it was, and you could kind of, you know, the teacher gives the example and then you go sit and do it. It's not like that. It's like more about discussion and questioning, and like then they kind of come to, it's like the self-discovery, and it's different, and it's a new way for even some of our teachers to teach. You know, that's why we focus on a lot of PD with the program. But it definitely is in line with what, you know, NGSS and other tests and like SBAC are looking for.
And we're being
So it's-
consistent with that cohort, like we started them in 7th grade and then we added it in 8th grade, and so every year we're adding it, so that cohort is getting like the consistent 5
Right.
years or whatever it's gonna take to show.
So while there's not benefit, is there loss, I guess, is what I'm.
No, I mean, nothing,
Oh, okay.
They're still
nothing
learning.
dips to
They're still-
the, yeah.
they're still being taught math.
It's just
It's
like,
not like
everybody's gotta take a
the
step
math
back
isn't
before we
happening.
can, before, oh.
Yeah,
Right.
math is still
But if
being
it's new
taught in those
concepts,
classes.
and it's something that like.
Yeah, it's
they're
just
won't-
different.
Just
Different,
different,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right, but something maybe that they're not used to, is that
Right.
like, is a kid also going through the transition of learning in a different way, you know what I mean? Oh,
And when we talk about the 5 to 7 year,
yeah,
that's improving on what we have.
right,
So
right.
it's not like the kids are involved in that have a brain drain and they
It's
are
ramped
taking
up, yeah.
steps backwards. They're the ones that are moving forwards. And then 5 to 7 years, that's when you see the
The
largest
benefit,
growth.
sure, right.
So it's not like it's negative, it's positive. That makes sense.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was like if it was just not aligned with what they were already learning. And that they had to, you know, as the teachers are relearning how to teach it, or learning how to teach it, the kids are also learning a new way of learning.
I mean, like, if they are losing some of their skill set because it was taught to them one way,
Right.
and then the program teaches it a different way,
That's-
is there a
thank you,
natural
yeah.
regression while they learn to reframe their thought?
No, because actually, so the program we did before this was illustrative, which is what K to 6 uses, because we kind of all did that together at the same time. So it's a very similar setup. It's the discussion, it's the self-discovery, so it's not the teacher standing in front saying, today we're gonna do quadratic equations, and here's how you graph them, y equals mx plus b. That's the way that most of us learned at this table, maybe not you, Jonathan, you're a lot younger than I am. But, you know, that was sort of like the teacher does, then the students do. And this is very different. It's not the teacher saying, this is how to do it. It's, okay, here's your problem. How are you gonna come about this? And that's all stuff that they're learning K to 6.
Oh, okay.
So it's.
So it aligns
It
okay.
aligns
And there's
more
standards
so
we have to
than,
follow.
yeah.
So there's standards for each grade.
Mhm.
So we're not just going rogue on.
Yeah.
and
A
abandoning
new method
it.
of
Yeah.
like learning, got it. Okay, no, thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you both for coming.
you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ian.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're still in the head of school report.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on both presentations. We just want to demonstrate all the great things that are happening here. We know what reality is, both from the social emotional part and the challenges that are in that realm, as well as the academic part. It is what it is. We need to take it from here and move forward. And you've heard some of the things that we're doing now. Some things are dramatic, some things are taking a longer, harder look at where we're at, but there's a lot of hard work that's happening. So I want everyone to recognize that. And I want to thank Deb and the admin team for their efforts, both the leadership team and the admin. Okay, last thing I have is I had the union approach me and talk about wanting to share more of what's happening in the school. So we talked about ways to potentially do that, and the recommendation that we landed on was that I would get a report from the union on some individual teachers, things that are happening in school, and I would share it with the board, just to give you a sampling of what's happening. Hence this report right now. So we have two new teachers. Nikki Fortin, which people might know, she's been subbing for us for a while, and now she's transitioning into becoming a teacher. And Jared Lacher, who's also new to us and new to teaching. So both of these people are getting their certifications now. They're both in science. So Nikki's in 8th grade science. And I'll just read you a couple things which are kind of cool. She designed and implemented lessons that encourage students to explore fundamental concepts of physical science, such as force and sound waves. Students conducted force experiments in which they crashed objects together under different conditions, observing, recording, and analyzing the results. Her students made cell phone cases using a variety of edible material and then tested their durability. Students learned about sound waves through experiments with underwater speakers and even telephone cups. So I'm not really sure what telephone cups are, but she's using
The cup strings.
Oh,
Old school.
wow. Before my time.
I don't believe that.
Science.
So really cool stuff happening. As a new teacher, I could tell you that she was very, very anxious about going into the classroom and being a full-time teacher. But she's been a coach for years, coaching sports. This is just a content area that she has background in. She's doing phenomenal. Jared is brand new to us this year. I feel for Jared. He is in 9th grade and teaching other standalone courses. So he has, I think, 5 different courses he's prepping for.
What was his last name, sir?
Lacher.
Oh, Lacher.
So he's teaching 9th grade science, he's teaching forensics, he's teaching concepts of science. So not only is he a new teacher, but he has got to, it's not like he's teaching Algebra 1 and he can prep for that and crush that every day. He has got a lot of different things he's juggling. Both Nikki and Jared are working with Craig Levesque, who is the department chair, science department chair, putting a lot of time and effort in. They are like sponges, they are absorbing all the great stuff that he is sharing with them. So Jared's working on things like the solar system, having the students learn about life in the International Space Station, the solar system as far as building models. He's also doing paleontology, geology, learning about plate tectonics. These are 2 of our teachers, which again are new to us. Science is very difficult to try and fill as far as any middle or high school goes. In this region, the candidate pool is not as dense as it would be like in Middletown or on the shoreline, or there's just not a lot of people in this area. So finding good teachers is very challenging. we got really, really lucky with both of these individuals because one, the hardest thing to do with new teachers is to get them to understand how to connect with kids. And both of these people do a great job of that. We can help them learn the content. It's the connecting part and getting kids to engage. That's very difficult. Coaches usually make great teachers because they practice that skill quite often. So a shout out to both Nikki and Jared, as well as Craig for shepherding them along the way.
Will this be a monthly addition to our agenda?
I think so. I think
would
we
hope
might
so.
want to
Yeah.
work this in.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else for your report?
That's it for my report. The next one is the,
Can you give, I'm gonna call you off topic, but Tamara's doing the cafe. Can you just, I know it's through the,
the coffee cafe.
yeah,
Yeah.
just, I
So
think it's, you know,
teaching life
something you'll
skills.
hear about.
We have, well, maybe I'll share it for, let me share it for the next time.
Okay,
A little write-up for,
do a feature of
Yeah,
that, okay,
yeah,
I put my request in.
yeah.
Okay,
that's
more to
great.
come. Next item, Board of Education report, Winchester.
So Superintendent Luby is going to present her first proposed budget to the board on February 3rd, and budget season is upon us. That's the big thing. Anything else?
Very big thing.
Quite.
Bill?
So you already did that last night for the preschool program,
Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
and they're gonna consider, she has to get more information, but they might put it out for, as a, what do you call it?
A bid.
Referendum.
Yeah, so we put out the roof for referendum that the selectmen voted. So that will probably go out for referendum in March.
Right.
The other thing we put to the selectmen was the expansion of our pre-K program that would require an addition to Hinsdale. They voted the selectmen voted 4-3 yesterday to collect more data, get some more plans drawn before we put that to referendum.
I think the important part of the pre-K is the 100% reimbursement.
Yeah, so 70 plus 15 and, yeah,
That's what they're hoping.
250, yeah.
So like now is the time to do it because you can get that reimbursement.
Yeah, so we have until June 30th to possibly get that full reimbursement, and it'll help expand our pre-K program, bringing more kids into the school district earlier.
It's
Yeah.
not definite that that will
Right.
happen.
Understood. Yeah.
That's what's,
But it's great to be looked at.
Yep.
Considered. Going back to Mr. Susan.
Just two quick things. One, I had a chance to meet with town manager and Dr. Luby this past week as our collaboration continues. That meeting was really focused on, shockingly, budget and insurance. A lot of positives came out of that as far as like solutions to these issues. It's just going to be a very challenging time for all of us. But we're collaborating, we're going to continue to meet and talk about ways that we can try and address the insurance piece because it's rough. The other thing I wanted to share is that I gave Dr. Luby a preliminary estimate for our budget. I know that she's worried about her timeline, getting her budget set. So I gave her a rough estimate to use, that it would not go over a certain number. Again, with insurance, it's kind of a moving target until the state articulates what next year's insurance plan will be, as well as what our number will be. But she has a number now that
She can work,
we shouldn't go over, so,
and we appreciate that.
yeah, I know just the timeline's tough.
Yeah.
So, anyway, just to help with the collaboration.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Mike, can we anticipate, like, through the rest of this budget season, there's probably not gonna be any real movement on negotiations, contract negotiations?
I think that the immediate concern is gonna be budget and insurance. Like, insurance is the main driver. So I think that's gonna consume a lot of our time together, talking about what does that look like. And then we'll circle back around, I think, to the other piece, because the other piece isn't critical at this moment in time, the budget is.
I just think that messaging is gonna be really important because there was a, you don't want like stagnation to be what is perceived. You know, when Kurt and you had that vote, which was for Ed, about accepting the verbiage that we came up with last spring, because that literally was last April, and by the time it comes around again, it's gonna be a year later, and the budget season is gonna be very stressful with the insurance increases and stuff like that. So just wanna make sure that the messaging is not that those negotiations have stalled, but it's more like you and Julie and Paul have been focusing your work together on the budget.
I mean, you're still talking about it, it's just not as
It's not the most important
Yeah,
thing, which
yeah.
I
Yeah, so
100%
they're
understand.
continually talking.
But I
Yeah,
just,
ongoing.
I just think
We
that
meet regularly,
that messaging is gonna be important through budget season.
Yeah.
yeah, so we meet regularly and for a variety of reasons. So we sit down and we'll go through challenges we're both experiencing. And then at this point in time, budget seems to like all of a sudden take over the conversation. The negotiation of the contract is on our list of things to talk about, but an hour and a half will go by. Like, for a great example, last week with Paul and Julie, an hour and a half went by and we talked about two things: budget and insurance. And we didn't even, really get very far in either of those things either. So it's on the list and it is part of our collaboration.
I think that's why we keep our ad hoc committee still on our
Right.
committee
Yeah.
listing, because it's not falling off.
Yeah, we're not
But I-
intentionally pushing it off.
I think you want the public to realize that
I
it's
think
still an ongoing.
It's an ongoing thing, it's not dead, it's just, it's perception of,
Sure.
that everybody, that all the work is still being done. It's not super
Transparency.
visible, it's transparent, because budget seasons are tough and the same old arguments and conversations happen year after year after year after year, and that will be one of them.
Yep.
Good.
Good.
Yes.
So since we are talking budget, Mike and I met this morning, and so his first budget presentation is gonna be to us next Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. We have scheduled on our
20.
calendar, we approved,
That's 6.
it's at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
28th.
Yeah, it'll be 6 to 7 because we double booked and we have a trust meeting at 7, we moved the trust meeting out, so.
Do you want me there?
Do you want one there too, please?
You said it. I
Sure.
thought there was a trust meeting.
Thank you.
That's what I said, I was like, I think I'm confused.
Yeah, so the
Thank you.
trustees will have 6 to 7, our budget presentation, and then we'll go into the trust meeting at 7 o'clock. The
Trustees
next
at 7.
scheduled meeting we have is our regular meeting on the 21st? 21st?
What?
No, 18th.
No,
January,
28th.
I'm talking February.
I thought there was
Yes.
something scheduled for.
There is, the 4th is a finance meeting.
And that's when we'll get our binders, right?
We'll review a deep dive on the line items,
Correct.
Wait,
And
February 4th?
yes.
Okay,
And
just
then
making sure.
the 11th, we do not have a meeting scheduled. However, we'd like to schedule one. So next week is the overview of big picture and process. The following week is the finance meeting, which is the deep dive into every line item.
What time? 6?
On the 4th, you mean?
The
Yeah,
4th,
4. I probably have it, I just want to make sure.
6 o'clock on the 4th.
Okay.
6
thanks.
o'clock. After that meeting, you will have the budget book. You'll have a week to kind of digest it. Come back on the 11th. I'll answer any questions you have at that time. And then the following Wednesday, which is the 18th, is when we would ideally vote on it.
So, I thought we might need that meeting on the 11th that we don't currently have scheduled to have discussion as a board with our budget books in hand. So I will make a motion that we add to our calendar February 4th for budget, sorry,
No.
February 11th, for budget discussion.
What time? 6 p.m.
Six.
That as well?
So the 28th, the 4th, the 11th, the 18th?
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty every Wednesday till the
Will be done.
18th.
Hopefully.
So
Absolutely.
does anyone want to
Awesome.
all 6 p.m.?
second that?
Second.
Except for the 18th, Tara, which would be 6:30.
6:30 would be our general, okay.
Yes, so
That
adding
is a
February 11th, which is a
big push for me
Wednesday
to get
at
parent in.
6 p.m. Is there a second?
Oh,
A
good.
second.
Kurt, okay. Any discussion? All in favor? We can always cancel if he wows us with the budget books and
So the 28th, is everything else gonna be on the 6th, at 6 o'clock?
everything's at 6, yep, February 11th. So January 28th, February 4th, February 11th, all at 6 o'clock.
And you're coming in
Julie's her presentation's the 3rd.
Yes.
The 18th, our regular meeting is at 6:30.
Which
Yes.
is the one, which is the one that's just
Yeah,
6 to 7, how?
6:30,
The 28th, January 28th.
just because that's our regular meeting.
Right, so much.
I think last night they talked about February 3rd being,
That's Tuesday.
That's when she's presenting.
That's when Julie's presenting, the night before he's doing his full presentation of details to
because
us.
we have a selectmen meeting on public works projects
On what day?
on that Tuesday, that 3rd.
Okay, that's not ours, ours is the
Okay.
4th.
But we have a meeting on the 3rd. Our board.
Winchester.
So there's dueling meetings, you're saying?
On the 3rd.
BOD and the selectmen have a
Right.
thing on the 3rd.
That sounds like.
I will tell you that, looking through the budget now, there's really not a lot that we're gonna discuss, because there's really not a lot there, so.
We can
I don't
decide on the
anticipate-
4th if we don't want to have the discussion on the 11th, but I anticipate once you get your book at the end of the meeting and you go through it, there may be a lot of questions we have to come back to on the 11th, so. I wanna make sure everybody's comfortable and understands before we vote, hopefully on the 18th of February.
Yeah, it's not complex. It's not like there's a lot going into it. It's pretty straightforward.
I had a lot of questions last year. But just wanted clarification, and then we're able,
Or,
but maybe.
preemptive question, as this is your first year, is the budget book, this is like a totally new format than what we're used
Good
to?
question.
No, I've been
I'm sure you've
advised,
seen the
There will
other,
still be details.
I've been
lots of
advised
detail.
to give a detailed, like you saw last year.
It does make it nice.
it does, I appreciate it.
So that's why I
But that
think we need
helps
that
me like
meeting
make, you know,
to go
prepare,
through.
like,
Well,
if I already
is it
understand
gonna
the
be down
format, it's
to
easier to understand the content.
Toilet
So maybe
paper,
there won't be
as
this many
Bill,
questions.
Representative Pozo asked last night for,
I'm sorry, what did he ask?
he wanted to know every toilet paper that we purchased.
There will be detail.
I don't need that level of
The
detail
rest-
because
I
I trust that the people that order the toilet paper
don't
have
think
done
Diane
their
wants to do that.
diligence in terms of getting the best price.
Diane has done a survey on, analysis on the squares of
Excellent.
Fly.
paper.
Obviously, it's only one ply.
Well, do you allow kids to have 2 plies at a time? Like you.
Okay, back to my report.
I don't think that's anyone's purview.
Mike and I were supposed to be in attendance to a conference on Sunday and Monday. Sunday, due to weather, is gonna be on Zoom. So we'll be attending that, and then Monday, it's close to his house, so he will definitely be attending. I'm TBD with the storm. But it's Connecticut Association of Independent Schools for Leadership and Development. Mike has also so graciously asked me if I would work with Josh on the security drill they're planning here for Gilbert. So there will be, 8 hours of online training to take before I do that. And we're gonna continue our meetings monthly with Kurt and Julie, so,
That's
yeah. So, lots going on, all good stuff in the middle of budget season. Does anyone have anything else? Motion to adjourn, Jonathan?
Motion made.
Thank you. Scott, second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
This one.
Thank you.